Welcome back to the show, my friends. I am your host, Eric Szilagyi. If you've had an uncomfortable experience and you'd like to have it shared here on the show, please get a hold of me at contact.uncomfortable@gmail.com. The world wants to hear your experience. It wants to hear your story. So reach out to me and let's get yours on the next episode of Uncomfortable. If you haven't yet, make sure to like us on Facebook and Instagram, both at Uncomfortable Podcast 65. And once you get a chance to listen to an episode or two, or maybe even view a couple over on YouTube, make sure to leave us a 5-star rating and a review wherever you can. That alone is the one most important thing that you as a listener can do to help get this show into the algorithm and out in front of more people. With more people listening, that means more great stories coming your way. If the video thing is more your liking, then make sure you subscribe to Uncomfortable Podcast on YouTube, where you can get a video version of most shows. If that's where you like to listen to us, please make sure to click like and subscribe so that you are notified every time a new video is released. Take a minute and check out the Uncomfortable link tree. It's the single best place you can find anything and everything uncomfortable all in one spot. All of my Uncomfortable episodes are there. Links to the YouTube channel, links to any of the other, my God, probably close to 20 podcasts that I've been a guest on. There's links to the Penford Media documentary series that they were doing on Bigfoot that I'm in. That is Linktree, linktr.ee/uncomfortable1. And that should have just about answers to any of your questions about where to find something. Now let's address the elephant in the room, as it were, my absence in the past few months. First of all, let me thank the many of you who have reached out, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, email, to check on me, making sure that I was healthy, making sure that there was nothing wrong. And I can assure you, no, I was not sick. I have no health issues. But in the last year, November 1st exactly was a year, I've lost 100 pounds from November 1st to November 1st. So the majority of that weight was lost by midsummer. And I realized that there were a lot of things that I had not been able to do for quite some time. And I have a wonderful woman in my life, and realized that there were a lot of things that we could be doing that I hadn't been doing for a long time. And we decided to take the summer and do those things. So it was never an intentional need for me to walk away from you guys, but I needed to live life for a while. So I'd been doing this for 3.5 years without a break. And I thought they'll still be there, hopefully. So hopefully you guys are still there. And, but you are going to notice a difference in the tone of the show. During the time I had off, I had some time to reflect, and I realized that I'd always been very serious in the show because I didn't want to show any kind of disrespect to my guests or to their experiences. But it became kind of heavy, and I wasn't able to let my personality out very often. And I miss that. So I'm going to be a little less serious. That's not to say that I'm going to be, cracking jokes at people's experiences. That's not what I'm getting at, but I'm going to try to let a little bit more of my personality out, have a little bit more fun with this. And, the other thing is that, you're going to notice, fairly quickly that some of the topics that I have covered in the past are going to be absent. And when I say that, I'm specifically talking about things that are of a spiritual nature, things that are of a darker manifestation type situation. Why am I getting away from that? No, I'm not scared of it. But with those topics, there are a number of things that come into play. One of which is How was the guest who I'm talking to? How were they raised? What religion were they brought up in? What was their family belief? So many of those things, so many of those external components form the opinion that these people have, and then they come on the show and they're telling their truth. But it's very much prompted by the environment that they grew up in. And it doesn't necessarily make it right, and it doesn't necessarily make it wrong. But when you start getting, in my experience, when I start getting emails or messages on Facebook Messenger or through Instagram where people are asking me to help them, for me to give them advice about their current situation. As knowledgeable as I am, as intelligent of a person as I think I am, and how I would never in any way put anybody in harm's way knowingly, I'm not that person. I am not the person that you need to turn to. If you have a story and you want to talk, I think I'm pretty good at doing an interview, but I am not trained to give that kind of advice. And I had several people reach out to me, and I did my best to point them in the direction that I thought they should go. But again, I'm not that authority. So, and then you have people who are, I want to say, people who are attached to their attachments. People who really dig the idea that they're special because they have these things going on, whether it's in their home or whether it's out in the woods, or whether it's, anytime they're around a certain person. And that's fine, I guess. But when you talk to somebody who really holds on to that and holds that to be very dear to them, I don't think that's an extremely healthy thing to do, because they're encouraging that interaction. They're encouraging that that exchange, that attachment. And when you talk to somebody who is absolutely not willing to actively try to eliminate that from their life, me, open yourself to a kind of a strings attached relationship with people. And I had that several times. And if you know, you know. If you don't, I hope you never figure it out. It's not a great thing. So during my time off, I got right with some things, and I cleared myself of anything that may have. I'm not convinced that anything was hanging around. I think things were peeking in on me. I think things were interested in me. But I did my best to rid myself of that, and I don't have any desire to go back. If you've listened to the show for any length of time, I had my experiences after my dad passed. I had other experiences that I talked about on the confessionals. And to be honest with you, I don't have anything else I need to prove to myself. I would stand face to face with anybody in this world and argue till I was blue in the face that things that are no longer living in our world can interact with us. And I firmly believe that. And there is literally nothing anybody can say that would make me second guess that. All that to say, I don't have anything to prove to myself anymore. And I'm choosing to step away from those type of experiences, those type of interviews. I am going to concentrate on my first two loves, which are Bigfoot and UFOs. If you've listened to the show for any length of time, you will know that I've been into UFOs since I was 5 years old and Bigfoot since I was 7. So the other thing I will say about the inability to, for the spiritual aspects, the inability to really quantify anybody's experience with anything that's even remotely science based is extraordinarily hard. So it leaves it up to a lot of supposition, and it leaves it up to a lot of, well, this is what I believe, and this is what I believe, and this is what I believe, and this is what I believe. With Bigfoot, there are Bigfoot prints, there are trackways, there are people who have gone the mile and got the castings, like you see behind me here. So that is in my belief, that's an evidence of a physical thing. Hair samples, you got DNA tests, whether they're real, whether they're not, there are things that can be tested. When somebody tells me that their grandmother talked to them through the search engine on their smart TV by making words appear, if you have a video of that while it's happening, because it happens all the time, then that would be something that I would look at and I would say, oh, man, that's pretty damn interesting. But when you say it happens all the time and there's no sense in me taking any video of it because nobody's going to believe it, then what am I left to believe? If this happens all the time and you can get video of it, why don't you? So I'm not calling anybody out. I'm just saying that I feel with UFOs, especially with the amount of disclosure that's happened, and God knows the drone sightings and everything that have been going rampant now here for the last 3 weeks or so. Plus all of the Bigfoot stuff and I feel that there is more of a wall of science that we can lean against when we talk about those things, rather than just supposition and the environmental part of how you grew up and what you grew up in. So no disrespect to any of those people. It was a lot of great conversations. I'm going to move away from it because Bigfoots don't follow you home typically. Some do, I guess. UFOs have not followed me home yet. That I actually kind of hope happens because now, as long as the probe thing is all folklore, because if they do the probing thing, I don't think I'd be too much into that. So, all right. So I got a great guest for you tonight. And if you're ready, let's get into it. So, if you will, please give a warm, uncomfortable welcome to Mr. Jerry Lentz. Jerry, welcome to Uncomfortable.
Well, thank you, Eric. Glad to be on here.
Pleasure to have you, sir. Pleasure to have you. Had the pleasure of getting to have a really nice conversation with you yesterday. Probably talked your ear off way too long just get to know each other conversation. But listen, you just heard me do my intro. This is, I'm a little out of practice. It's been since early August, I think, since I've released an episode. But I needed a break and I needed to get some things straightened out in my life. But you've had some unusual activity in and around your property.
Yes.
You're in the thumb of Michigan.
Yep.
And why is that important that we say I don't want to give your exact location away. I know there's going to be a couple of people that are listening to this episode who know you, so they'll know where you live.
Right.
But 90% of the time that I drive out of my neighborhood, if I'm going to work, I turn to the right and I go to Indiana. If I'm doing anything other than work, I turn right and I go up into Michigan. I love the state. It's got everything you could ask for, and so I know Michigan well. And a lot of my listeners are from Michigan, and a lot of those listeners from Michigan listen because of the experiences from people from Michigan. So
Right.
I think it's important to bring that up. Jerry, we talked last night, and you've had some some things that some people are going to go ahead and say it's woo. I made my argument to you last night as far as what I consider the woo to be just things that are possible by other animals that we can't do, and we don't really understand it. So, if you would, you choose where you want to start. I know we have orbs in the field and lights dancing around in the trees, and we have a large, dark, shadowy object that moved out of your perception pretty quickly. So you just you get into where you want to start, and don't be surprised if I pop in with some questions.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. It all started with me. I was in a ghost hunting group. I, talked to Eric about this before. Really wasn't Bigfoot really wasn't in my category of searching out or anything at the time, and I was at this one person's place, which is not very far from me, probably 5 miles from where I live at now. Um, what people want to call or don't call, like wood knock type thing happened daytime in the woods behind her house. And actually, it's a small town actually where she lived. And as time went on, kind of got out of the ghost hunting thing, and um, I had surgery years ago, probably about 10 years ago, and now it's been more than that. It's 15 years ago. And when I was on my surgery, my friends, my son's friends, we always went back to have a fire because I was off work forever, seemed like. And I would always just play around smacking a tree with a 2x6. And it was nothing to do with Bigfoot, nothing at all. It was just something we played around with, listening to the valley, all the noises, the sounds at night when it's quiet. And it kind of went from there to the first, well, whether it's wood knocks or whatever, this sound, I shouldn't say wood knock. It kind of sounds like a wood knock, but it don't sound like a wood knock. As I was talking to Eric yesterday, the very first time that would have been the very first time I ever heard it was, I was cleaning my dad's pond, cattails out mid-afternoon, and my wife has heard it too more than once. And just a small patch of woods off to the east of me, which I'm 3 miles off the Lake Huron. And there's a hill with the woods. Heard a knock. At that time, I really didn't put anything together. And so I told my wife, I said, "Who's in the woods hitting a tree or whatever it sounds like?" And Mike goes, "No, I heard that too." And then I was working again and it happened again. So I get up, I walk up on the hill. I would have to say that was in end of July, August. And I'm thinking, well, somebody's in that woods. Again, Bigfoot really wasn't on my radar for anything. Really, it wasn't. And as time went on, as again, I go back to the fire instance, or back when I was off on surgery, time has transpired from there. It's been quite a while, and we had like a little fire there was a bunch of neighbors was there with us. My cousin and stuff was there, and I said, listen to this, guys. So I hit the tree and, and it went on. You hear the sound through the valley. I said, I can do a better one than that. And I did it again and it was really loud. And I just turned around and heard again, I, 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 I couldn't do what the sound was. It sounded like a tree knock, but it didn't. I said, that's in the back of the woods. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. So I said, no way. And I'm looking at everybody at the fire. I said, there's nobody back there. So I did it again. So it moves closer. Now it's like I have 2-part woods, and we're in the front woods, and the back woods is another separate woods. So it sounds like now it's closer.
And this is all your property, correct?
Yes, yes. And
Are there? Can I ask? Like
yeah,
outside. What am I trying to get at? How close are your closest neighbors?
where I'm at, I'm a half a mile back in the section. The front part of the road, there's nobody. At that time frame, there was, I would have to say, a half a mile to the west. There's 2 houses to the west of that. And one of the houses that's there now was not there prior, to all this stuff that's happened.
Yeah.
And
Now, do you know these people? I mean, I realize that
yes,
there's some good distance between you, but
yeah,
have you ever spoke with them about? I know you'd probably have to approach it gingerly, not like you were accusing them of being on your property, but
right. No, because there was an older couple that they both had passed since then. The other gentleman that's in the other house, he's kind of he's a good guy. He has a little 10-acre plot right there by the road. Um, uh, I've never really spoke to him. No, I can't say that I did. No, no. As far as kids and stuff, that's the strange part of it is after those knocks in the front woods we were at, we could hear the leaves crunching because now this is in October, and as I talked a little bit about yesterday, was it stopped? You could hear it step, crunch, 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 and it's like right beside us. So I told my son's buddy, I says, grab the flashlight, I'll grab him. Let's run in the woods. I mean, if it's a deer, we're going to see it. If it's a coon, whatever it might be, we run in, absolutely nothing. So I come back out and I said, everybody, you all heard this. You all heard like footsteps. They all said, yes, we all heard it. And they're all like, everybody's like not saying anything. It's like, well, something just happened.
yeah,
And I'm like, oh man, this is, and kind of made me go forward into the Bigfoot thing. And I said, and thought about it more, I thought about it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start doing I watch a lot of YouTube stuff, see what people do, put things out there, marbles. I mean, I've done so many things. I've been now at it for like 5 years of this. And again, I use bigger objects because it's harder for an animal to move stuff. So then I start hanging stuff. I mean, I done a lot of things, and then there was what kind of got me back into going backwards again a little bit. I hunt a lot, so as I was just walking around in the woods, and then with snow on the ground, I seen these. It's like it's strange. It's like 3 bent branches that are like one tree bent, not real big trees. I'm talking real small ones. They're all bent, one this way, one this way, and one this way, and they all hook in like it's crazy. Like they all hook in, they interhook to each other, it holds them down, and then there is another 20-foot deadfall that lays in a crotch, and the very tip of it holds it down, so it don't. pop up, and I'm looking at this. I'd had several guys look at this. I says, tell me this is a natural thing, because it does not look like it would take 2 or 3 people to do something like that. I couldn't do it by myself. Another strange part of it is right where that is at, it looks like a grave right under it. And these
Looks
branches
like
all
a
come.
grave.
Yeah, it looks like there's moss all over it. Yes, right over top of it. Again, I don't know. And then another 10 yards from it is another one with massively round trees that are all like perfectly put together. Like it looks like, again, looks like somebody had built it. I mean, could a person
Do
do
you
that?
have
Yeah.
do you have
Yes.
do you have photos of these?
Yes, I do.
Well, if while I'm thinking of it, if you would share those with me,
Oh, yes, I will,
um,
definitely.
when I put this out, I will include a Instagram post, and if you're okay with it,
Oh, yes,
I'll add
definitely.
the pictures in with it.
So as I found that one, at the other one not very far from it. So, I did a lot of research, listened to a lot of different people talk, and about looking at different tree structures. These aren't like massively huge, but they're smaller in size. You know what I mean? They're not like the ones like a lot of people show, these massive trees.
Right.
It's not massive, but so what I'm going to get at with that, and I'll send the ball to you, the wicker ball, and I'll show you the hole that was ripped in it. I should have had it here. I could have showed. I didn't think about it.
Okay.
I put a large marble in it. I mean, a big one, a big marble, and I popped it in there and I hung it. I hung it on that big one with the tree things that are all which way, and I hung it
Yeah.
like right off one of the branches. Well, again, the strangeness was it stayed there. I don't know, maybe a week and a half. So I go back and I can look through it. I don't even have to walk up. I can see it. Hang on, well, it's not there. Squirrel must. I used fishing line. That was the other thing I used. I used fishing line, something really tough.
Right.
So I look. Oh, there's the wicker ball on the ground. Pick it up. The marble's gone out of it, and I could see where it was actually like ripped apart. Pulled because it. How the wicker is. It goes around the ball, and
Yeah.
marble's gone. So first thing comes to mind. Well, it can't be a squirrel. Squirrel could not put that thing in its mouth. It was pretty good size. Now another animal, yeah. Again, we can go and say a coyote picked it up, took off. Possible. So as I talked to Ronnie LeBlanc at one of the paranormal shows that I went to, and I always ask different questions about doing different things, and I told him about it, and he goes, "Why don't you take a wick?" There's one part of the woods I would not bother. I would leave it alone. A lot of deadfall. If something's going to go hide, I'm not going to go over there. And he says, put a wicker put something over there. You never did anything over there. So I got a wicker basket, and I'd put different color stones, and some would come up missing. And again, squirrels, coon, I get it. Any of those could have done that. But after I put it there, the second time I went back, that green marble was in that basket. No,
That's the
no,
marble.
excuse me. Let me back up here. I said that wrong. Where the wicker ball was that was laying on the ground where the marble was, that wasn't there. The marble reappeared there. It was on the ground exactly where the wicker ball was. And I got thinking, well, maybe I just missed seeing it in the leaves. Maybe it wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I don't think so, because I checked around. So I took that marble, went to the other side of the woods where I've just discussed into the deadfall in a wicker basket. The second day I went back, it was gone. I've never seen it again. So, um,
So in your mind's eye, when you first found the wicker ball on the ground and you saw that it had been torn open, what do you think the likelihood is that you actually missed that marble being there?
it's very possible.
Okay.
But what I don't understand is, yes, I could have. I'm not the one to say that I didn't, but I searched. I did. I searched it all out. Not
Okay.
saying that I could have missed it. I don't know how it could have. It's in size. It's pretty
That,
big, so I'm feeling
that's what I was getting at. I wanted to know how much effort you put to try to find that marble.
Oh, I
And
walked all around.
and did you like in your gut, did you feel that it was kind of odd that, man, how would I have missed that?
Oh yeah, my head was like,
Okay.
and my head spinning. At this time, it's like, no, is somebody just messing with me? But nobody really knew, even if it's a possibility of a person, a neighbor, sneaking back there, walking around. Again, that's possible, but there's really no kids around anymore. Most of the people are grown up and gone around my neighborhood. I'm not outruling that. But how would they know that I was doing that? Because I never got word out about any of this. This has just stayed within family here. And
Okay.
even my family people, they don't know. They don't like going around when they heard that kind of stuff going on. We're not, you guys don't go back there anyways. You wouldn't know where I'm doing it at.
Yeah.
You don't know what little spot I do this. I mean, for somebody to run upon that, probably saying, "Who's this freaky guy? He's got wicker balls hanging in the tree." You know what I'm saying? And somebody would think
Yeah.
this guy's a freak. Um, so it kind of went from that. And the other thing that I had so many things happen, and the one that came to one of three things come to mind is I've tried pennies, I've tried crystals, I've tried every little thing. And again, a lot of stuff got moved, but again, could be squirrels, could be coon. Those are
Right.
your primary.
I think that's the problem. I think that's the problem when people use small things to try to attract these creatures. Because yeah, raccoons like shiny things. Squirrels are attracted to small nut-sized things. Um, but I guess it makes me wonder at what point you said you'd been doing this for about 5 years, and
Yeah.
I think last night in our conversation you said that you would pretty much decide to do a certain type of experiment, if you will, each year.
Yes, and what I've noticed is things that would happen year to year. And like I said, we can rule, I know outrule, but we know what animals are here. The things that's strange with the things I've had happen and had um, go on is the things year to year changes. I'll have something here, one spot, but I'll have something over here. They wouldn't touch this one, but they'll touch this one and do things here where they never did it before. So, in my opinion, I don't think if it is, again, it's Bigfoot. I want to think that's what it is, but in my heart, I keep the research going because maybe I'll figure it out or find something that's really, uh, in my mind, to um, solidify
Yeah.
this is what's going on. And is this really what's going on? Or am I uh, just thinking this is what's going on and it's not somebody just playing around back there in the woods? So, what I did this year, where I will get a good picture of for you of the mound where this thing is all put together. I don't know if it's a good picture of it, but
Are you talking
I
about
used
the what you think might be a burial mound?
yes.
Okay.
And what I was doing this year, and I was doing this, and I put big marbles and I put rocks around it, put the marbles in the middle, and I'd make a cage all the way around it. like stuck sticks in tough. So, if a squirrel tried to
okay.
roll it out, be
Yeah.
tough. I have some pictures that just, I don't understand. They'd all be taken out, put in a row, like literally had to be picked up. Something had to have picked up and moved it because they weren't the creature. If it was a squirrel, and that they couldn't roll it out because it was inside,
Right.
down in where the roots were. So, that was the latest thing I had happen. I have 2-3 different spots that I do things in, and every year it could all happen in this one spot, and the other two nothing gets touched. And I don't understand, you know, is there more than one if this is what it is, and this one or a different one comes through, and I don't have the answers. And that, with ghost hunting, and I always look at this. UFOs, you're right. UFOs, we've come a long ways. Unclassified, the files are coming out. They're showing more video and stuff. But back in our time, you're close to my age.
Very.
There, um, that to prove this, to prove that, to prove that, like ghosts, we
Right.
have proof. Oh, I got a video of the shadow, or we got a picture of this light in here. Oh, I see a bunch of tree structures. What's it going to take? This is where I'm always at sometimes, we kind of have the proof there. It's just a matter of, with,
We don't have anything to attach to it, though,
yes,
which is the
yeah,
issue. You know,
yes,
you bring up the structures, and the structures for me have always been a very fascinating thing. Um, you know, can a human do that? Yes. Can a couple of humans do it? Yes. Can 3 or 4 humans balance a big branch across the crook of another tree? It's going to be tough, but yes, they can do it. My son is a geologist, so he is very much a science minded person. He has belief in all this stuff with me, along with me, ever since he'd tell you that I introduced this to him way too young, and he had countless nightmares about these things. But now he's 28, and and I think he has some appreciation for the fact that I gave him a lifetime of weird stuff to look into. But with him, he's like, because of his science brain, it's like if a human could do it, a human could do it. So I'm not saying throw it out, but if a human could do it, then you have to allow the fact that a human could do it enter into how it got done. And at first I was like resistant to that, but the more it's gone on, I got to agree with him, and I think he makes a valid point. As far as the structures go, I have seen some that, especially like the teepee looking enclosures. I have seen some that just look like, people picked up large limbs, and over the course of years, people just kept adding to it and adding to it, and
right,
it's impressive. But then I've seen some that have such an organic quality to them, where when you see them put together and you see the care that has been taken, that like each branch is not perfectly straight. It's got bends and it's got curves to it. And that all of those have been placed with the curve going the same direction, so that as they lay together, they kind of intertwine. And there's a very organic look to it. Those are very compelling to me. And those, I don't think that a normal human, unless it was an artist who went out in the woods and just decided they were going to create some kind of beautiful, strange wood art, I don't think anybody would really take that part of it into consideration to make sure that the twists and the bends of every limb that they put into this thing were going in the same direction, almost to see it looks like it was woven or twisted all at the same time once it was together. Very interested in what the component of that is. And then the other types of structures that you see, I guess a lot of people refer to them as like possibly signs or glyphs of some sort, much like what you were talking about, where the three saplings are folded over each other and then held down by a central point. A gentleman that I interviewed really early on in the show, he on his public land that he hunted, he was very adamant about this piece of property was a real pain in the ass to get to. And he's like, that's why he hunted it, because not many people would have the gumption to go through what he had to get through to get to that property. And it was a swamp. And he said, like, during the summer months in preparation for hunting season, him and his daughters who hunted with him would go back there, and they would, they'd be working on cutting out shooting lanes, and they would be clearing areas so that they had good line of sight. And, a lot of deer would come in through that swamp area. And he would talk about, he called them like makeshift picket fences. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I asked him to describe it. And he said, it's like, there'd be like a sapling, like an inch or inch and a half long or diameter tree that was broken. And then the broken part of it was facing the ground, so it was kind of in almost a A shape. And he said, but then there would be limbs from trees that would be leaned up against that broken piece, almost like a picket fence. And it really became apparent to me, because like I pay attention to the way people speak about what they see. If they're using words that I don't think they should be using, that causes me a little bit of pause. If they're using words that are very, very common in Bigfoot culture, that makes me think, okay, you've watched enough, you've seen enough to know that this is what this is called. But when he was describing these to me, he was either very smart or, he was telling the truth that he didn't know what they were called. And because it was a swamp, they would take those limbs that were leaned up against the tree breaks, and they would collect all those limbs, and then they would take it down to the edge of the swamp, and they would lay it down on the real soft ground to give them something of almost like a boardwalk, so they had some support when they could walk around the outside edge of the swamp and not soak down into it. And then they would come back a couple of days later to work on the food plot, and those limbs had been picked up and put back against the tree break. But now, instead of just that one, now there were 2 and 3 of these picket fences. And he said, he would look at him and he'd be like, it was almost like something. And this guy Bigfoot was the furthest thing from his mind. He'd been a hunter since he was a little kid, never gave it any thought. It was all horseshit. It was all poppycock. It was all made up bullshit. He didn't believe anything about it. And then he was finding piles of anywhere from golf ball size to softball size rocks that were literally right near where they were dug up, but they were piled up. And he would be like, who's out here just piling rocks into a pile, like a stockpile of rocks for what? And as well as I do, Bigfoot is known for throwing rocks, right? Whether it's to intimidate, whether it's to, try to get people to leave an area. But why would that not appear to be uh, a weapons depot. What if that's a hunting area, and they're smart enough to collect rocks, that if they know they're going to be in that area, the humans are there hunting deer. If they know the deer are there, then Bigfoot certainly knows the deer are there. And what are they going to do? See a deer and say, "Oh, I need to get a rock," and try to look around on the floor of the forest to find a rock and throw it to hit the deer? No, they're going to have a stash of rocks already available to them. So it's just very, very, very interesting to me. The structures and the rock piling and those things. It's very, very unusual. Um, what what about your property? Did What about the property, the parts of the property that you decided to start doing your experiments on? Was it just was it an arbitrary? Well, I'll do some here, I'll do some here, I'll do some here, or was there something specific about those areas that kind of clued you in that this might be a good place?
When I started when it's obviously the tree knocks. What really got me was when um, hearing about, watching videos, and it's nothing to do with what I seen, but I know what I have going on here. How they trees. I'm going to go to this part, and then I'll get to what your question was. Every one of my trails in my woods, big trails that I drive my car down through, all I have trees across them. All of them. All of them. Every single one of them. The one that kind of blew me away the most was there was a thorn apple tree. I'm guessing it was probably, you know, that big around. I'm 6 foot, and with my arms stretched out, this break was a fresh break. I could see it, and if I have a picture of that, I'll send that to you too. It was right across, so I'm walking down the trail, and I got thinking, what? There was no wind, there wasn't no storm here this whole week. So I'm looking at that stuff's like rubber. I mean, you can't even break a branch off. That stuff's so rubbery. So I kind of went around it, went back, and then there was the back trail. There was two more across my main trail, and the backwoods kind of like they sit like this. Well, that's strange. Again, I got thinking, well, it must be just some head's not really computing all of it yet with this trail blocking and all this stuff. I mean, I seen stuff on it, but of course, I questioned myself. This is just. The next day, I go back. There's a bigger tree across where the picker tree was broke off, and it's laying this way now. So now I got a picker tree laying one way. A massive tree was now. It's almost like I had to take a chainsaw to even get through it, with a vehicle or a four-wheeler. So I can say, you know what? I'm going to try some stuff. So I'm going to go back where the main trail goes into the woods, where I was discussing. I've heard the tree knocks prior. Just start, just start. I never really researched it. I just, guy works. Try some marbles. Try some pennies. Try this. Try that. Just a guy at work that I talked to. He's kind of he's into all the um, uh, UFOs and Bigfoot and that too. So it just kind of went from there on that main trail that goes into my backwoods, because that woods to get to it had the most strangeness to it. I don't know how to explain it. I mean, as a ghost hunter, you do it enough. I think even with the Bigfoot, I don't know so much about UFOs, the UFO part of it, but it seems like it's, in my opinion, again, it's my opinion. I think you get in tune with, whether it's that or something else. He kind of started. That's just said, I'm going to do that right here. I guess just came to mind. That's a main trail. There's logs across it. So I respected that part. I'd never cut the logs. I'm going to play around here. And it kind of started like that. So what really blew my mind was I found a deer jawbone. So I laid the jawbone like way up on the log, and so I had it patterned pretty good. Things at that one time frame would happen no later than no later than 5 days. 5 days was a stretch, but it's about every 2 to 3 days. So I would time myself. Once I figured I seen stuff moved and I figured it out, okay, I'm not going to bother going back. If it wasn't on the 3rd, it was on the 5th day. Whatever reason, I don't know. Well, anyways, the jawbone I put back was moved right away. And the thing was, it was moved to where it was balanced. It was laying across on the log like this. And then when I came back, it was all the way down the log, and it was teetering, perfectly balanced. I mean, you touch it and it would balance. Okay, I got thinking, I don't think a squirrel would pick it up, probably a raccoon. So you're trying to, figure out how. I have pictures of that too now. And then it kind of went from that. Each year I was doing something different. I'm going to go bigger stuff. Quit with the small stuff. Bigger stuff's harder to move for a squirrel. Then I started caging everything, like a little cage, put stuff in the middle, see if stuff would get moved. So actually was last year was nothing was really happened last year at all. And I don't know why. This year I had whether it's that or again, typical animals, typical could be a person, true. But nothing made sense with every one of my trails. Yes, it looks like deadfall, but there was one of my main trails that was literally, I mean, it's going to take me weeks to clean it out. I mean, there was trees like every which way, and they were piled all the way through there. Again, trees fall. I get it.
Trees fall. Yeah, they do.
And so it kind of went from there doing that. In that 1 year that I was having the most activity was the time I come into the woods, and I was not very fearful. I mean, I wasn't scared like some people say things happen. And so as I walk in out of my peripheral vision, I heard a crack. I'd seen something black. First, I seen something black, like, I don't know. It looked like something was bent over. Then I heard crack, and so I ran 5, maybe 10 yards, not even 10 yards, probably 6, 7 yards. I ran up onto the hill part of it, which where it was at was inside the woods, maybe 15 yards in the woods. That's all pretty open. I mean, there's trees, but it's not like deadfall or anything like that. Excuse me. So as I ran up, there's nothing. It's like there was something there. I seen it out of the corner of my eye because I'm looking down for tracks. That's me. I've always had my head. I don't do that no more. I kind of do it, but I pay attention to everything around me now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just like, poof, nothing there. What did I just kind of see on the corner of my eye? Heard the big old crack, like something stepped on something, and then nothing. I get it. They say they're fast. If that's what it was, they're super fast. I mean, I don't know. I don't have an explanation for that. But that's an instant that happened too. So, I mean, I don't know if you have any insight on that. I mean, I know I hear, you see that people see things, but
yeah. I mean, that's not an uncommon trait to to people who have felt that they've had an experience with these things, that it's a fleeting glimpse, not necessarily eyes on, but something in the peripheral, large enough to give one pause that it could be gone that quickly, for them not to set eyes on it again. Now, you said you're in the thumb, correct,
Yes.
of Michigan. As far as wildlife that is there on a regular basis, what are the larger animals that you would have in that area? Deer, obviously.
Yeah, deer, coyotes, of course, raccoons and squirrels, and I would say deer, bear. There's no bear here unless a bear got loose. You know, that's not uncommon. We've heard that around here. It's happened quite a few years ago. That has quite a long time ago. That has happened.
Yeah.
There has been now again reports of a cougar to the north of me. That happened a few years ago.
Yeah.
Um, and that this was another strange thing that happened. We're talking about large animals. Is we come home from our local big town, and I heard this in my woods. It was so loud. It sounded like a large cat. Bobcats. Okay, we'll go back to bobcats and lynx. There was a something out of Canada. I don't know if it was I think it was a lynx. Was reported here. I would say that was probably a few years ago here, not very long ago. They reported and they had pictures of one of them. They figured it came across from Canada when the ice was froze. And they captured it. Yeah, I don't know how to say that. The 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 getting back to the larger animals, and talking about what I was just saying about the noise I heard, the scream. It was literally a scream that was so loud and went so long, and it was like it ran out of air, whatever was doing it. So I hollered at my wife, "Get out here! You got to hear this. I don't know what it is." So I did my own research. I
Okay.
went on listened to bobcats. I went on listened to lynx. I went on listened to cougars, and none of them went as long. It was sounded like a giant cat, and again, in my woods is a half a mile, and it echoed. You could just hear it echoing. And I said, "It's coming back from that woods." So could have been a cougar. It didn't sound like it listened to all the voices. It didn't sound like a lynx. It didn't say, again, one of those things that I can't explain. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the one thing that stood out too with me was you could hear the expel of the voice or of whatever was making the sound like it just ran out of air. It's like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
and again, that's in one of the two woodses. So I can't explain. All I can explain is we have big deer. We have a lot of coyotes. I know coyotes will do strange things too with stuff, move stuff, grab stuff. So I can say that much about that. I mean,
How often was that the only time you've ever heard that scream?
yes, once,
Just
one
that
time,
one time.
at one time, and just as I hollered for my wife, I thought I was going to do it again, and it never did it again. But it would make your hair stand up, the sound, because
Yeah.
I've never um, heard anything like that around here for all the life I'd lived or all the time I'd lived here.
I'm not going to ask you to tell me how many hundred yards away it was, but you can typically, if you're hunting in the woods, you can hear a neighbor's dog off in the
Yep.
distance barking.
Mm-hmm.
And because you know that area, because you've hunted it several times before, you can, in your brain, you can put that's Mac's dog, and he's about
Yep.
a quarter of a mile away. So
Yep.
I know what that sounds like. Um, this property is yours. It sounds like you spend an awful lot of time on that property.
Yep.
Can you give a guess, like an estimate? What would you say? How far away was this thing? Because you said that it was close enough that you could hear as it tailed off at the end.
Yeah.
Almost, you could almost get the impression that it was running out of air,
Yeah.
and it just had to stop. So that, to me, that would indicate that it was relatively close.
Yeah. It would have been my first woods off the road is probably my backwoods is a half a mile, so I would say a little bit more than a quarter mile. You
Okay.
know, from my direction, because my direction's kitty corner. I live across the road from down the road from where I own the property, and it was like kitty corner. It was southeast of me. So I could tell it was in that woods because of the the, the echo of the sound and how it was eliminate. The sound, how it was coming out of. You could tell it was in the woods.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the fields because I got all
Another thing.
open fields. And
Another thing, I wanted to take you back to early on in the conversation when you were when you had the fire and you had the people around, and you would take the 2x6
yeah,
just to hear it echo throughout your property. You said that after you heard the similar noise come back at you, you mentioned hearing the leaf litter crunching.
yes,
Um, I wanted to ask you back then, how I mean, was that off in the distance? Did it seem to be relatively near to where you guys were? Did everybody hear the crunching of the
yeah,
leaves?
yeah. It was just like inside the woods. It couldn't have been like right there. Like it was so close that you could literally just hear every crunch, the leaves crunch.
Yeah.
Then we'd stop and then it would move again. And I'm pointing this right there. It's right there. It's inside the woods in the dark. It has to be. I'm kind of
Yeah.
whispering to the guys and my wife and that they all heard it. That sounded like a human walking in the woods. That's what it
That
sounded like to
that
them.
really that caught my attention, because that is something that we spoke about this last night. I've experienced while I was hunting.
Yeah, the one thing I've noticed in the 5 years, what I've been doing is I've been time framing it from when something starts and when it ends. What I've noticed, there's a few things that might happen when the leaves are finally green, but I have a lot of acorns. My woods is loaded with acorns. Of course, squirrels and all that too. That it's like you can go like August to, it seems like to me, about deer season, opening day. It's to me, again, this is my personal view. I think they come through here, they hang out here because we have the lake. I'm by a big river that's 3 miles one way to the west. I got a lake that's 3 miles to the east. I got two ponds on my property. There's ponds all around my area here. There's guys that dug ponds. I mean, they always say water source, water, fish. These ponds got fish in
Right.
them. But I even have the pond where the activity goes on, and there's a pond back there. We had it dug when my dad was around, and I always walk around that looking for tracks in the mud. Never found any tracks around the mud. Never found any tracks by the pond. I got close to the road. So, if you speak of water source, I mean, I have it. I have it in this area. Again, a lot of people will say, "Oh, you're just crazy." Bigfoot's only up north. There's nothing down here. Well, I don't know. There's something going on, and the last thing that really, the last. There's two things I want to bring up. One is my son is kind of skeptical on a lot of things. I mean, he is, he'll question things, and that's great. I always like him because he always questions me. It could be this, it could be that. You're right. We walked back to the woods, and this would have been, again, before I ever started doing what I'm doing now. This would have been before a year or so before. We walked around the back of the woods, in front of the backwoods, where this crack pop sound. It's like, what was that? It's just, so we walk a little ways, crack pop again the second time. I said, it's right there it's right there. It's right here. It's so close to us. So I told my son, we hear it again, because we used to play paintball back in the day. That was the woods we played in. And
Yeah.
I said, you go that way. We know this. I'll come around and we'll close in on him, whoever it is. Sure as crap. Third time, crack pop, same sound again. So we took off. We ran in and we met each other. He got up on the hill, high side, and I got on the high side. And it was nothing. We come back out. My boy, he's shaking his head. He goes, what in the heck is that? And I said, I don't know. So as we're walking back out, same spot again, crack pop sound. It's like my boy, he just shook his head. I have no explanation. So getting to the crack and pop sounds, my buddy was just hunting here last week, and I've never had anything go on in the wintertime as far as anything like that. I mean, besides the lights, I'll get to that. He heard a pop sound. He says, it sounds just like that crack pop, just a pop sound. It was loud. So he said, I got out of and it was snow on the ground here. So he said, you'll see my tracks where I got out and I walked to the high part and looked down the valley where the tree things all are, the tree structures or whatever you want to call them, but that's what I call them. And so I went back. Of course, it was just a light snow in the morning. I said, wow, that's just. So I went back. No, I could see his tracks, and I walked around all the area, and I could see deer tracks in the snow. But again, there was nothing, and he just goes, so another instance, I'll bring this up, and was before opening day of bow season. Excuse me. He was back mid-afternoon, and he was putting corn back, and he's disabled, so he could not go very far. He'd take a little bit of corn and dump it, and so he's sitting in his car. He's resting. He heard a tree knock, whatever you want to call them, in the front woods, not the backwoods where I do all of my strange things, if you want to call it that.
You got to come up with a better term for that, because doing strange things out in the woods doesn't sound real good, dude.
Okay. Bigfoot things. Then we'll go Bigfoot things there. Um, so the woods that I had other things happen in the front woods. He heard a knock real close to him. He's sitting in his car. He looks in the woods. So he calls me on the phone. Hey, what are you doing? You messing around with me? And I says, no, I'm coming from the town. I said, I'm about halfway home. And he just went silent. He goes, well, I heard a tree knock. He says, and I says, no kidding. He goes, yeah. So as he hung the phone up, the tree knock again now is farther away. It's like going away from him. It did it one more time. So what I always did is my little thing I used to do. I go back. When I come out, I hit the tree, knock twice, and then I leave. I get on my four-wheeler and I head out.
What are you using? What are you using to knock?
Just cut off firewood piece and, yay big around, probably,
Yeah.
like that. And then try to find that. I always hit that same tree. So I always try to give the same sound.
Yeah.
But like he said, and I said, those sounds don't, they call them tree knocks, but, and I asked him the same question too. I asked him, did it sound the same, whether it was closest to you, the farthest away? He said, it exactly sounded the same. It exactly sounded the same with me the two different times we heard it. It sounded the same, but when you say tree knocks, I don't know, you really want to call it that. I think it's something else because there's no way you could do those sounds exactly the same. It didn't sound like wood hitting wood. You know what I'm saying? It was more of a real hard thump. You know what I mean? Just like a boom, kind of a boom, it's kind of a sound, not a whack. I don't know. That's just, again.
Well, I told you last night my wacky theory on what I think maybe these knocks and these different things that it might be a peripheral component to these things coming into our ability to perceive them. I'm sure I am completely off base on it, but I don't know. And the whole reason I bring that up is because you hear knocks when you're investigating paranormal situations in a haunted house. You hear knocks out in the woods. You see balls of light, orbs. If you've seen a true orb, not just a reflection of a flash from your camera in a piece of dust, but right. If you've seen an actual orb manifest in front of you, then you have people who have experienced lights out in the woods, and you can get into that. I think these things are. I'm not saying that Bigfoot are the watchdogs for aliens. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, but with the way UFOs tend to blink in and blink out of, they kind of phase in and phase out in some videos that it's like maybe there is some component that these things are here. They always are here, but there are only moments where our perception is allowed to see them, whether that's we're peering into something or they're peering into our realm of reality. Or I don't know. When I start talking about it, it starts making me feel really weird because I feel like I'm a fucking kook. But I think there are so many of these things that are relatable in Bigfoot experiences, UFO experiences, paranormal experiences, that it's led me down the path of for the past several years thinking that there is some component to us viewing these things that is they're similar. They're somehow they're presenting themselves in a similar fashion. I don't believe that they are related per se, but I think they are things that we only get to see certain times. And whether that's a veil that opens, whether that's we're in the right place at the right time, whether there is a frequency or a vibration that is happening that we happen to walk through at that moment. I don't know. It makes me feel crazy when I start saying that shit out loud. And I know people love hearing it, but when you have those thoughts in your heads and you kind of actually believe it, it kind of makes you feel crazy a little bit. But we're getting a little long on time. But if you would Can we get into the couple of experiences that you have had with the lights?
Yes. This just came this year, and I kind of did my little investigation with my buddy, and we sat down here about a week ago, and we were discussing the lights because nothing. These lights that he has seen 3 different occasions, and myself this year, I seen one. Of course, it all he's seen it 3 times. I seen it once. And the thing was, it all happened in this one field, pretty much. The field I hunt out of in the hunt. And you're going to say, well, it's flashlight. Somebody's hunting. Well, it happened in bow season for him, which no one can hunt there. Again, people sneak on people's property. I get that. I've never had to kick anybody off mine, never had to chase anybody down. None of that's ever happened. So my uncle's property butts up against my property. He owns 60 on the one side. When my dad passed, I inherited my dad's property. So there's a fence row there that I already know. I can see the fence row from my blind. And real quick, it was where the sun wasn't up. It was getting daylight. So I seen this light. I just happened to be looking straight to the east, and it was on the fence row. It would have been on my side. I seen this. I don't know. It looked like a light. It didn't let. After I just studied it and thought about it, it was just a ball light, and it went out. And I go, somebody's walking up that fence row. Okay, I'll catch them because I can see the bottom part of the hill. So I'm elevated stand quite high. I'm watching. There ain't nobody. I can see the bottom of the hill. But whatever it was the light was facing me directly. I was looking at it. Then it was gone. So I discussed it with my buddy, and my buddy goes, "Hey, wait a minute." He said, "There was somebody come up behind you. There was a light behind you in the morning." I said, "What do you mean behind me?" He goes, "Right behind you, behind your blind." I said, "Well, my back's turned there. I don't usually look that way because deer don't normally come out there." And he goes, "It's on that place you put trees and the deer ate." I says, "You can't see that." He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "I got that 8 foot, 9 foot wheatgrass, they call it. It grows like unbelievably tall." I
Yeah.
said, "You can't see on that fence row." Now, was it in the air? Is it going to pop? And he stood there a second. He goes, "You're right. That could have been up in the air. I just seen it. Like I thought you were coming through there. I said, "No, I was already in my tree stand." I said, "I watched you leave. You come back. This is 2 different days. Okay, the day that I seen the light was a Friday. The day he seen the light was Saturday morning. Both of them were morning. It's always morning, never night. It's always morning." So he said, "You're right." He says, "That was probably in the air, and it was there, and it was gone." So I said, "Let's go back. Let's back up now. When you were in your tree stand in October, you said you seen this light come across the field directly at you, straight at you." You said, "Yep, it come across the field, it crossed the ditch. I could see the light, but I couldn't see anybody." He says, "It was close enough that I couldn't see anybody when somebody's walking in the grass. They got the light in front of them."
Yeah.
So he said, "I flashed my light, and then it turned. It come straight at him, and then it turned." But he said the light kept facing him. You know what I mean? The light never changed. It acted like it never changed angle. Like if somebody was
So not
walking, the
not
light.
like it had a back of a flashlight that
Yeah,
when somebody turned, it would be angled away
yeah.
from it. So this thing was generating light 360 degrees around itself.
So he goes, "You're right." He goes, "That light was facing me all the while, and then it just went out." That was 3 times. Another time he seen in the same fence row I seen, he seen a light come down. Again, it was facing him because he said I could see the light,
Yeah.
like it was facing me. He said, "You didn't realize that light was facing you all the time." So And then we were just like, our heads were spinning, well, I don't think there's no way, he said, I seen anybody with a flashlight that time. So it come to mind that we were putting this all together. I don't know what that was all about, but I know it was nobody. It was something something was eliminating light. I mean, I don't have an explanation for it, but again, I already know it's always happened in the morning, and it's always happened in that one field. Not like it in that little square field, that little, I think it's, I don't know if it's a 30-acre field. Yeah, I would say it was probably a 30-acre field. That's right there between the halves, because, like I said, my uncle owns half of
Is
that.
is is there anything um is there anything environmentally, or what's the word I'm looking for? Is there anything about your property that is anomalous? Like, I mean, is one of your fields like over a granite slab, or I mean, is there a lot of limestone in the area or anything? Because I've heard, in uh, different lifetime of ghost investigating and stuff, that certain types of rock can generate, supposedly generate lights, and different magnetic currents or anything, things that is there anything anomalous about the area that you live in that that you're aware of geographically? Or
No, not that I'm aware of. I that's one thing I never did really look into. But the only thing I do know, pretty much factual, was there was Indians. There was Indians here, because whether that has anything to do with the
yeah,
grounds or whatever, I hear so much about it. The only way I know this is there's two different things, but I'll just cut one short. A friend of mine lives up the road. He bought his mom and dad's place, which is 1 mile, at really a half a mile from the woods where I'm at. If you go kitty corner, when they were kids, they were picking up arrowheads out in the field beside them. When the farmer worked the field up, they went out there and they would pick up arrowheads all over out in the fields.
pretty good indication that the Indians were there.
Yeah, so I can pretty much verify that part of it. So it's no, I can't what you're talking about. I can only speak of
Yeah.
what I know, and that's one thing I do know.
So your property, you saw something. You saw something. It was large. It was dark. You thought it was hunched over, um, and then poof, it was gone. You've had a lot of anomalous things being moved. You've done them several times. It's not replicated itself exactly, but you've had the same results happen several times. You've been doing this enough. It's captured your attention enough and your interest enough that you've continued to do this for 5 years now.
Now, Eric,
Doesn't
I don't mean to interrupt you
No,
here.
you're fine. Go ahead.
There's just one other thing that happened. I want to make sure I get this one out, because
Oh
I
yeah,
just
go ahead.
had the backwoods where all the stuff happens. This was one day I went back and I had my head down. I heard a crack. This tree, right, it's not a real big tree. I heard a crack. When I looked down, I seen the branch crack. I heard crack, and I seen a piece break like this. So I stopped and I peeked, and I peeked around. That was a small tree. There ain't nothing can hide behind that tree. But I watched it. I literally heard the crack, and I seen the branch. I seen the branch literally go like break. I could see the fresh break.
Yeah.
And so I'm standing there, and now my hair is standing up. It's like, I just seen this. I've never in my life had experienced anything like this before. So I think, yeah, something had to step on it to break it. So I walk in a little ways more, and a massive tree goes down. Ooh. And that's the first time I can honestly say I got out of there. And I went back the next day. I don't know. This tree was, it was massive, broke. It didn't really break off. It kind of split. I know trees fall, but experiencing that was kind of moving a little bit for me. I mean, it takes a lot to get me like that. Most people wouldn't get up and run toward something big and black.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
gonna go the other way. I'm not. I don't. With this back, what's going on with me? I don't feel threatened whatsoever. Yeah, it gets to me sometimes. Some of the stuff I've heard. I mean, again, I'm going to go real quick. I know we're your time and everything. Bird sounds, and I've had this happen several times where I'd come down the woods, I'd hear this chirp sounds like what? I don't remember hearing that. Go down a little ways, hear it again. Go in, and I'd hear it. Then I would just sit there, and I go in a little ways, I hear it again. So I'm sitting there, I'm listening, and it got quiet. Every time I stopped, it got quiet. So, anyways, I do my little rounds. I come back out, chirp again, chirp again, chirp again. And it chirped once more when I come out, when I got out. And it was, no birds. It didn't sound like any of the birds I know. But
Yeah.
it could have been, a goofy bird that had a weird voice chirp to it. But,
Yeah. Yeah.
people say these things, and I don't know. It was that was a real strange thing that happened. But yeah, for the most part, never had heard a tree that size. If people see it, I mean, I should get a picture and show it to you, because I've got, actually, I'll send you those pictures. I have another one that I'm not going to tell you what I think it is, because that's what I want to see. I always show other people
Sure.
this
Yeah.
picture I got, and
Yeah.
not very
Yeah.
many people have
Don't
seen it.
spoil it for me. Let me see what I see.
Yeah, I'll send you a few different things, and you can just, you're more than welcome to use any of them,
Okay.
post them or whatever. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever.
Okay, so if you're watching this as a viewer or a listener, make sure that you head over to the Uncomfortable Podcast Instagram, and with the promotion for this episode, I'll include the pictures that he sends along with this. Jerry, I wanted to sum this up at the end by saying I want to know what your gut tells you. My thoughts here. So many people that have experiences have this overwhelming fear, this dread, this feeling that they need to get out of the area that they're in, and you have not experienced that. Um, you say you feel very comfortable in the area that you're in. Throughout the conversation with you, it sounds like there are more active periods where things are happening, and then there are times where there is not much happening. So it makes me wonder if your property is transitional for them. Are they using whatever's there, whatever it is? If it's Bigfoot, if it's nomads, if it's wild men, if it's homeless people who are traversing from east to west or west to east on the in the thumb of Michigan, whatever it is that is creating the effects that you're having on your property. If it's transitional and they are only there for a short time, versus people who have a dreadful feeling, and a lot of the people that I have talked to that have that happen seem to have ongoing throughout the year can almost count on guaranteed something's going to happen. They're going to hear a hoot. They're going to hear a howl. They're going to, something's going to be moved in their yard. Something's going to be leaned up against their barn. Their horse tail is going to be braided. Something's going on a regular basis throughout 12 months. Those people are typically the ones that get a really bad feeling. So I'm wondering if the component to that is if those people are in an area where something has chosen to live, and that's their home, that's their domicile, that is their home base, and they are protective of that area and they don't want people messing around. So by whatever means they have available to them, they can create this feeling in the people in that area to keep them out, keep them at bay. With you, if you are really comfortable on this property and the things don't seem to scare you, they seem to be a little bit more playful or just kind of messing around. Maybe it's just that they're only in that area for a brief period. Maybe that's a transitional area for them. They come in at a certain time of the year. They may be there. They may move on, 20, 30 miles, and then they may come back. Maybe there's some kind of I don't want to say a migration in the same sense as birds migrate, but maybe they're following a certain berry. There's a gentleman out in New Jersey, Mike Famelant, with Shadow of the Big Red Eye. He did a lot of research in Jersey, and it's his opinion that there's 2, possibly 3 clans that tend to migrate the state, kind of in a clockwise order. And because of a certain type of berry bearing bush they have there, the berries come out multiple times a year. And he feels like one clan comes through, and when those berries are coming out, and they decimate the area, they clean them out of all the berries. And then once they've gone through that, they continue around clockwise to another part of the state. And then by the time those berries replenish, another clan comes through, and then they take advantage of it. And he feels that there's either 2 or possibly 3 groups that continually just circle that part of the state. And that might be something that it's possible that what's going on in your property is similar to that. They're moving through at certain times, and then they're gone for a while, and then they're maybe coming back, and you're experiencing the things again. Who knows? I mean, it's all a guessing game, and I think it's great that there's people out there like you who are doing things to try to recreate this stuff to find out if it's an ongoing thing. I think you're on the right track. I think staying away from the really small, shiny stuff is smart, because varmints can tend to move those things. I think making things more complicated, like putting things in those your self-made cages, or like you were talking about, I think that's a smart move. I think it makes whatever's doing it has to be smarter and have more of maybe an opposable thumb in order to be able to grab these things and line up certain things. People tend to walk out into their woods or into their metro parks or wherever they go, and they pull out their cell phone and they turn the camera on and they get the right angle and they're walking through, and they're telling everybody they're out there researching Bigfoot. Bullshit. You're not researching anything. You're a guy taking a fucking walk in the woods with your camera on. If you're going to be researching, you're a guy out there walking in the woods hoping to have some kind of an experience. But if you're out there and you're doing some things like what you're doing, even though they're rudimentary, I think that has value. if you continue to do these things and you continue to have results from it, then that's quantifiable. A researcher just taking a pair of binoculars out in his backpack and going and searching for Bigfoot. Well, if you don't take a picture of the goddamn thing, then nobody's going to believe that it was there. You can tell people till you're blue in the face that you saw it through a pair of binoculars, but show me the proof, So I think, at many different levels, even what I do, talking to people, getting their experiences, caching all the data that I collect out of what people say, I can go back and somebody else can be telling me a story and I'll be like, oh, I heard that before. That makes total sense. That rings true with what I've heard from 3 other people. And also you talk to some people and it's like, nah, I never heard of that before. I think you're full of shit, but
Right.
So I think it's great that you're doing that. Have you ever messed with trying to put up cameras or anything of that sort?
Yes. I get into that. I'm glad you brought that up. I had stuff going on in the the first woods. The woods are what we heard the leaves moving in. That's where I did a little bit in both woods. I started out with the back and then I did some in the front. Well, the front, I was having marbles moved, and I put stuff over the marbles. So something had to pick the piece of wood up and move them. Well, the stuff was always getting scattered and stuff. So I took a rake. I raked everything up, where the ground was like all the way around. So if anything come in, I could see a track.
Yeah.
Well, stuff would still get moved, and I couldn't figure it out for the longest time. You know what? I'm bringing the step ladder, the big one. I went up 25 feet. I screwed it in the tree, tilted it down, and I camouflaged it. So, anyways, as I'm doing this, a big old branch falls out of this tree right off the corner of me, and I hear it comes down. It's like, what? So, anyways, I'm there. Another big one goes off the other side, just like, come on, just what's going on here? So, anyways, I get that all camouflaged. Nothing happens. Nothing. Like, that don't make no sense. So I said, unless someone see me put it in the freaking tree. I mean, so anyways, I go back, I pull it off. 2 days later, the stuff's all moved again. I'm finding unsuccessful with cameras. I've tried everything. I put them on the ground. I put leaves on them. The cameras would be knocked over. I didn't quite put them in the tree. So getting back to the one I put in the tree, I think I put it up there 20, 25 feet in the air, is I couldn't figure out. So it had me stumbled. Now, how is something coming in here and not leaving any tracks? All I could figure, again, this is my view, is there's the oak tree. I had it beside an oak tree. All I could think was it was whatever was doing it was coming up behind the oak tree, standing on, there's roots. These roots are massive. Stand on the roots, then reach over. If it had a long arm, would move the stuff around.
Yeah.
That was my only view. So I stopped it there. I tried cameras again here, but I do have an interesting photo that one I really want you to see. It was at night it was taken, and very unsuccessful with cameras. I even put cameras where them three small trees are bent down and held down, because I had a lot of stuff going on there. So I put one, dummy me, put it like 5 feet away, tucked it up against the tree, nothing. And nothing actually, when I did that, everything just went dead for the longest time. It's like once I pulled it out of there, it was quite a while later that, again, if that is the case, they knew that camera was there.
Yeah.
Probably watched me put it there. If it was.
I was going to ask you one thing. If you had ever considered, you were looking for prints. How is something getting there and moving stuff without leaving prints? What if it's coming down the tree?
You see, I was asked this question, and I look up now. I never did before. I never, when hearing all this strange stuff go on, it's like, do you ever look in the trees? No. My head's too busy looking down once I'm
Well,
walking, looking for tracks and stuff. So no, I
when
never at that point, never even thought about up in the trees all this time until recently.
it's
Really.
funny because one of the conversations I had with a gentleman from is a little more towards the middle of the state and south of you. I forget what county, Mason County, maybe. I don't remember. Just a normal guy, just a normal Joe. No, had some experiences, but didn't have any great insight or anything like that. But he ended up saying one thing to me that I had never heard before. And it made complete and total sense to me. Anytime you ever see a trackway of prints, they always appear to be foot right in front of foot, almost in a straight line. Whether the way we walk, we kind of straddle left and right, left and right, left and right, and their feet seem to tend to leave prints one right in front of the other. And I always thought that was odd. And because if you try, a 6 foot man, 190 pounds, 180 pounds, whatever, to walk on a balance beam, right? Not the easiest thing in the world to do. And if you ever have been unfortunate enough to get pulled over by the police and they ask you to walk a straight line in front of them to prove your sobriety, it's not the easiest thing to do, even if you are sober. So how do these things walk in that manner? And it dawned on me with the comment from this gentleman, which was, we were talking about the young, the adolescent, the juvenile Bigfoots, because he had said that he had seen what he believed to be a child. And I asked him, well, where do they keep them? It's like, I mean, are these teepee structures where they keep their young? And he's like, no, the babies stay in the trees. And I was like, okay, interesting. And he says, that's why they're so adept at walking in straight lines. He's like, the majority of their formative life is spent walking on branches from tree to tree, foot in front of foot in a straight line, walking along a branch. And they do it for so many years of their early life that when they get down into the ground, then that's their natural way of walking. And I was like, holy shit, that makes total sense. So that was like my first real dawn of, the light bulb going off that, these things are always in the woods. Why would they not be arboreal? Why would they not be in the trees? Why would they not spend as much time as they possibly could above the eyesight of anybody that's out there looking for them or accidentally running into them? So I think there's a lot of validity to that statement. So Jerry, it's been a great conversation. I thank you so much for taking the time and doing this with me. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun talking to you.
It's an honor. It's an honor being invited on your podcast here.
Well, folks, it's great to be back. I'm thrilled. I'm excited about going down this path with the Bigfoot and the UFO stuff. If you've been paying any attention to the news lately with all the drones and all that stuff that it seemed to be around the New Jersey area and several of our military bases near and far away. Anyway, hopefully you guys will stick around with me and get back into the Bigfoot and UFO stuff. There's plenty to talk about. Jerry, again, fantastic conversation. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Good night.
Yep. Take care.